Good afternoon from Tallinn. Sorry for the delay. We had technical issues. Is your mic on? Can you hear me? So on. So nothing is more sexy than to start with technical issues. I'm happy to welcome you here in Tallinn. It's quite rainy. We have Christoph here and we have Ian here from EERICA as well. And before we start off with the presentations, then, well, we have Christoph in Estonia, and he actually has the fireplace.
One moment, my coffee has arrived.
Yeah, I will have my tea as well. So we have two fireside chat session. And what we are going to do is we just share the e-residency journey from entrepreneurs and EERICA's perspective, and also from 1Office as a service provider's perspective. I have been working with e-residence the whole time, and 1Office was in business even before e-residency was started. So we have supported entrepreneurs who do foreign business even long before e-residency. And we do have chat here, so please feel welcome to ask all the questions. We will ask those right away when we want to make it very interactive. And I will let Ian and Christoph introduce themselves. Although you are famous e-residents, then maybe there are some who don't know what you are doing, and also to introduce what EERICA is about. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as we promised, fireside chat for today. Here's the fire, keeping the promise. As Christina said, I'm in Estonia, as I love to spend my summer seasons in Estonia every year. This summer season is coming to an end, and so I decided to spend my fall on most remote and southernmost island of Estonia. It's about 3 hours with a ferry away from Pärnu in the Bay of Riga. Has 60 inhabitants through the winter season, about 300 visitors a day in the summer season, and about 12 square kilometers of size. So here. And especially after the first week when social contact actually started and I get integrated into the island community and the village, things started to become really, really awesome here. So yeah, my e-residence journey is started about 3 years ago. I'm originally from Germany. I became a perpetual traveler at about the same time. So I got rid of everything that casts a shadow and does not fit into my suitcase. And since then, I'm traveling with all my possessions through the world. Used to spend my winter seasons in Southeast Asia and summer seasons more around Europe. And Ian, there's quite some background noise from you. Maybe you can mute yourself when you're not talking. Much better. Maybe you can even hear the fire cracking behind me. Yeah, I'm in the insurance industry. I run a little company that's specialized in children's health insurance on the German market. And I'm about to start a new Estonia-based specialized insurance brokerage for global health insurance for digital nomads, just as I am myself. And about a year and a half ago, with Ian and 7 others, I founded EERICA, the Estonian e-Residence International Chamber Association. So we wanted to build in the first place, a political representation for e-residents. As we are like more than 70,000 now, running more than 10,000 companies in Estonia, we're all suspect to Estonian legislation, taxation, regulation, without any direct influence to that. And we thought it was about time to at least be organized once we might run into trouble here. So still, as of today, we don't have any major issues with Estonian lawmakers or officials of any sort. But it's better to be in place and to establish an organization that's recognized once the problems might occur. And that's gone quite well so far, especially for the second big advantage EERICA brought, and might be interesting to you as well, which is a trusted and reliable network of real people. While some of you, and I've seen some names here in the participant list that are also familiar from the big Facebook group, so you know how that works. But this is a great platform for like beginners questions with answers from people where you actually don't know very well if they know what they're talking about, because they have like, let's say, anonymous accounts or pseudonymous accounts. While with the EERICA community platform, we realized that giving advice to each other, sharing best practice, works on a totally different level if it's approved e-residents by their ID code. And so that's the second big advantage of EERICA. And that's my introduction so far. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think it was switched to the wrong microphone. That's why you got the background noise at first. Sorry about that. Hey, I'm Ian. I've been an e-resident for about 5 years now, actually. And Christoph and I met up in person in Estonia 2 times, actually. And one of them was for the creation of the EERICA, and then another one was for a hackathon on the island of Vormsi, another small remote Estonian island where we did a hackathon, actually building some projects for e-Residency. So we have quite the history together with e-Residency. I also know Christina because she actually sent out an email like 3 or 4 years ago to all the attendees of Latitude 59 saying, hey, 1Office is going to be at Latitude and we're going to give free 15-minute consultations for everyone. And I had signed up for e-Residency about 5 years ago and was like, hey, this is this really cool idea. I really like this like techno-libertarian kind of free-thinking, decentralized the concept of a country, kind of rethinking even the idea of citizenship going forward. And I just really wanted to support that idea, but I didn't have any reason to start a company at the time. I was living in the U.S. at that time, and I knew I was going to move eventually, but wasn't sure exactly when. So now I live in Seoul, South Korea, and right around the time that Christina sent that email was when I was starting to prepare my move. And so I went to the booth and talked to people for a few minutes, and that was a really great introduction to the Estonian business environment for me. And so part of the reason that I joined Christoph in creating EERICA is to give other e-residents a similar kind of opportunity to talk to people who actually know what they're doing and have some kind of backing behind them. You know, while EERICA is not providing like official legal business advice, we are a bunch of e-resident entrepreneurs who have actually created a business, pay our taxes and all those kinds of things. And so that's what we're all about as far as creating the community of active e-residents to help each other to build a really awesome business network. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you for sharing. So I will take the interviewer role and ask, before you signed up for e-Residency and registered Estonian companies, had you had any business experience? Were you doing any business beforehand in Germany or in US? Did you come with the business experience, or did you start it from scratch?
Ian,
in my case, then, yeah. Can you hear me now? Yep.
Yeah.
In my case, then, I actually was basically moving my US-based business to Estonia. So I had been operating a US-based business for about 5 years before that. And then in preparation for moving to South Korea, I wanted to have my business headquartered in a jurisdiction where I could do everything remotely. Because in the US, you still have to do everything by paper signature, and it's a bit of a hassle. So that's what brought me to e-Residency as a business case.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Christoph?
I've never done anything else. So I started my first business when I was 16, still back in school in my full time. and went fully self-employed when I finished school with 19. And since then, I've never signed an employment contract for myself. But in the meantime, several from the other side as an employer. So I've been running this health insurance brokerage in Germany for more than 10 years now, with a team now of 8, 9 from next month, where we all work remotely and location independent, so we don't have an office anywhere. And when I started that with my German business partner, who actually also knows Ian, so who's an e-resident now as well. So this e-residency community, at least the core of it, is like a real family. Everyone knows each other in person already.
True.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So with my but Christina, I think you haven't met my business partner yet.
I don't think so. Maybe we have, but we haven't
But you have
connected the dots.
seen him. You have seen him that one morning when I was sitting in Tallinn having breakfast, and you walked by at the window, and I was waving at you. He was sitting next to me.
Was that
You might.
Okay,
I mean, you haven't
okay.
even recognized me that morning, so I think you don't remember seeing him. But you were 2 meters apart from each other once in time for sure. Yeah, so I started this company with him 10 years ago, where he was living near Cologne and I was living near Berlin, and we were working together remotely from the beginning. So actually, our company doesn't have any business culture, company culture of working together in the same room. And so when we took it to the next level, hired our employees, facilitating e-residency for that was just a very natural thing, because this is location independent business running by design, which is coming from Germany and having run all kind of business setups in Germany for the last more than 20 years is something quite unique and very special. While in Germany, our company still uses fax on a weekly basis. As process, it's insurance industry. That's a bit more Stone Age than other industries, but the whole society still works pretty paper based. And running a company in Germany is something where you always need to expect some important letters in the post mail, like from the tax authorities, with a short-term deadline. So you really need to observe your physical inbox, and that this is not a thing at all in Estonia. And with the Estonian company, is just an amazing experience that you start to value and to appreciate more and more over time, when you get used to that this is a real thing. That's not just the advertising for it, but while running companies, and now it's several companies that I own or co-own in Estonia, in the last 3 years, I've never received any written letter on paper.
That's true. And I would say that we had paperwork 6 years ago, also that the tax office sent a decision or a declaration notification on paper by letter. But since e-residency started 6 years ago, nowadays everything is forwarded to you by email. You just have to see that your email is working, for one, and sometimes check the junk box that perhaps something has ended up there. And that's basically it. But so let's get to some of the questions. So hi, Ugur.
Before we started, Christina, is this webinar here being recorded?
Yes, it is recorded as well, so we can share it later on with those who weren't able to participate, and we can share it on social media.
Awesome.
And Ugur is asking from Ian, can you tell a bit about your business plan?
Yeah. So sorry, what was that?
About your business, not business plan.
Yeah, business plan. Yeah, I'm still planning. I mean, I've been doing this e-residency thing for 5 years. No. I'm a software developer, so I do custom mobile and backend apps are kind of my specialty. And then my business partner Luke, who's an American e-resident living in Switzerland, we went to university together. He's more of a front end developer, so the two of us combined together to make a pretty awesome duo as far as full stack development.
So my follow-up question is actually, so you registered your Estonian company. What did you do next? What was the next step? Opening
Open a
the
bottle
account?
champagne.
Yes,
Yeah,
obviously.
right. Yeah, open it. Yeah. So the next steps were to, well, first I actually, actually, it really was. The next thing was to open a bank account. So I didn't even know that you were supposed to go through a service provider or something. So I just like emailed LHV and was like, "Hey guys, I'm an e-resident. I want to create an account here. What do I do?" So they sent me a PDF application, and so I filled that out, kind of expecting to get rejected because at the time there was really not even that much info out there. I mean, the Facebook group was as pessimistic as ever about your odds of opening a bank account. And to top it all off, I'm a US citizen, which is kind of a international black spot in terms of financial services access. So I was kind of expecting to get rejected, but they were like, "Okay, yeah, well, it looks like you have a legitimate business and everything, so can you come to Estonia?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I actually flew to Estonia. Actually, kind of funny story. I flew to Estonia the day after my business partner Luke got married in Switzerland, on my way over to South Korea, where I was getting married a month later. So that was, I guess, my first action as an Estonian entrepreneur. And the second one was setting up my Apple developer accounts and moving my existing apps over, and then just telling all my existing US customers, "Hey, here's my new bank details."
And you were basically, you could launch your business right away because you already had existing business in the US, so it was easier for you as well. What about you?
Exactly.
Same experience? Christoph, sorry.
Yeah, a bit different, as the first company I started in Estonia is pretty much like a personal vehicle and holding company. So it's basically used to bill my existing German company for my managing director's fees and just some little side projects here and there. But mainly, so the first major thing that I did is, yeah, of course, I also opened up a bank account in person in Estonia. And then I was trying out a lot, like opening up an additional account at PayPal, at Payoneer, and this and at Stripe, just to try how that all works and to get the feeling of how to use it. But the first major thing was that I made an appointment at my German notary, because I was then transferring my German shares to the Estonian company. And that was quite a funny experience because things in Germany don't work as smooth and easy as they do in Estonia. And let's say with being at the German notary in at that point summed up to 7 different roles in one person, of selling shares as a shareholder and director of the one company to the other company as a shareholder and director. The biggest issue was that the German notary questioned my my legal right to represent basically myself. And so I had some trouble to get that clarified from Estonian lawyers, that I actually am allowed as a director and single shareholder of my Estonian company to buy shares in another company from myself. Yeah, but I got that solved. So if someone is running into the same trouble, I can share my best practices.
Speaking of other slightly bizarre corporate actions, I guess you would call them, I ran into a situation with the US in terms of our taxation. Luke and I actually used to work separately under 2 different Estonian companies, and we were like, okay, well, we should have to close one of them down actually because of US tax reporting. It was going to cost us like $1,000 per year per foreign tax entity that we had because of some new reporting regulations in the US. So we had 2 separate companies and then one jointly owned Estonian company. And so what 1Office was able to do for us, I'm not actually trying to promote 1Office necessarily, but I just emailed them and was like, hey guys, you know, you're my service provider. What can we do about this as far as closing the companies down? Because that's something that I see a lot in the Facebook group, is people asking how to wind down an Estonian company. If you are actually just trying to consolidate Estonian companies together, then doing a merger is actually much faster and cheaper. So we were able to actually merge 3 companies together in the course of like a month or something like that for much less than it would cost to even wind down a single company. So that's a random pro tip for you guys as far as odd corporate actions.
Yeah, I would add to that that don't hesitate to ask advice. And sometimes you might not be aware of some solution. You think that you have to close it, but there might be other solutions as well. There's not only liquidation or merger, there's also merger with physical person's assets. So there are different ways to actually kind of like end the business if there's a need for that. But fortunately, let's hope that nobody has the need to close their business. Everybody is blooming and crisis is over and everybody will make tons of profit. Switching back to Ram's question, he's asking how can we find service provider for e-residency application? Actually, the e-residency application, everybody can do it themselves. They don't need service providers in between. It's an online form where you just provide your personal information, you upload photo and passport copy, I believe, pay the state fee, and then you wait for the police and border court to actually reply. How long was the process? Of course, for you, it was many years ago, but how long was the process when you actually applied? And where did you pick up? So pickup locations are also hot topic right nowadays.
It was 1 month application process approximately. I actually had to do it again recently because I'm an old e-resident. So I initially picked up my first card in Washington D.C. in the U.S. and then I picked up my second card about 1.5 years ago here in Seoul.
Mm-hmm. And it was a simple process as you have done it. I haven't done it ever in my life, but I have heard.
Well, this is the real, not the marketing session here. So actually, in the case of the U.S. one, it was pretty easy. In the case of the one here in Seoul, then it was a bit of a process. I had to email them back and forth a few times and kind of nudge them and say, hey, is my card ready yet? Yeah. So you sometimes do have to contact the embassy or wherever you're picking up.
Yeah, use the common sense usually if you have some questions. All right. If you would be a starting entrepreneur, what is your tip to yourself then? If you start a company and you haven't done any business before, you have no idea. So you registered the company, you managed to open an account, where this is like totally different topic, whether it was Estonian bank or foreign bank or fintech like TransferWise or Payoneer or whoever else. Then what do you advise to do to actually launch your business? Because registering company, opening an account is just like the backbone of doing the business, but sales, marketing, costs, everything else, this is where actually the business journey starts, when you have set up the legal entity and now you actually have to generate income, trying to earn the profit and so on. What is your advice?
That really depends on your industry you're in and the business model you have. There is no general advice about that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to start your Estonian company if you have some experience as an entrepreneur in your where you currently are or in the past. But you don't have to. I mean, e-residency is also, as it's quite easy to start, it's a perfect tool set for a side hustle. So if you feel like there is something that you want to try as a business, but you're not absolutely sure about that, I would, I mean, not in this session here not to drop names, but there is, let's say, a product out there that allows you to start to utilize Estonian company without actually opening one. If you are doing that in the very first beginning to try out your maybe freelance career, then you can do that without all the hassle that you would have with what Ian just talked about, closing down a company in case it doesn't work. So you can easily just try and start, and if you find out that what you are planning to do actually works, or you pivot and find out that something else works than you had originally planned, which is just a normal thing in entrepreneurship, then you do the next step and start your own business, for example, with the help of 1Office. I'm reading through the chat here in the meantime, and I saw some questions that I would like to answer. One is ASEP, and I think if you are the same ASEP that's active in some other communities, I at least know your name already quite well, sounds familiar. You were asking about holding company structure. Yeah, the same as of you. Okay, cool. Yes, that's what I actually did, and it makes a lot of sense. Coming back to there are two major reasons to start a company in Estonia. One is the ease of doing business through all the digital workflows and the legal framework. But the second one is taxation. Estonia is the only country in the European Union with a system of deferred profit taxation. So you have 20% profit tax, but you don't have to pay it for all retained profit. So only once you distribute a profit as a dividend, you pay this 20% on that, which sounds pretty technical now, especially for someone who has not visualized the effects, the long-term effects of compound interest for themselves. But I highly recommend you, and I have one to share if someone wants afterwards. I have done a comparison table for 30 years of being an entrepreneur with a German legal entity versus one with an Estonian one. And that's something that makes it super attractive to use the Estonian entity as a legal vehicle for investments. If you have a long-term, if I'm promoting somewhere the e-Residency in Estonia, I always start with, it's not for everybody. If you are in an industry where you are dependent on like short-term windows of opportunity, and the industry only makes sense if you can cash out your profits regularly, then you might find other jurisdictions that are more in your favor, even within the European Union. But if you have a long-term approach and want to build a company as also a vehicle for growing your own wealth for your retirement, then the effect of not paying taxes in the long run until you cash out one day is so much cheaper, even compared to like 10% or even less annual profit taxation. 20% in the very end of a period of 20 or even 30 years is so much cheaper that you definitely should take that in consideration and calculate that. And so coming back to the question, as of now, I have my personal holding company here and my little playground for personal business projects, which is holding shares of my other ventures, like my German company. But I've also founded in the meantime like 3 other Estonian companies where I'm shareholder between 10 and 50%. And these shares are all held by the holding company. Yeah, and that's the reason behind that.
Jan is asking, so the follow-up question, did you ever have to prove your flight tickets and so on to German authorities? So I guess business trips and cost side.
Not at all, because I'm not a resident of Germany anymore and also not a tax resident. I'm a perpetual traveler. I've signed off from Germany a couple of years ago. And so I'm in no relationship with German authorities. If I would come back in the sense of settling down in Germany and registering there, they might probably, especially if this is after a short period of time, they if you have a question, if that is the case. Yeah, Ian, Jan, I'm answering that. They would only start to question that if I would come back and settle down and register in Germany. Then they would ask me, like, where have you paid taxes in the meantime? And might assume or allegate that I have actually never been really away, and then they would want me to prove. And actually, I have some really good documentation for my travels, which I use an app called Polar Steps.
Polar Steps.
Yeah, which is a really great which is a really great visualization of travels, map based. So here you can see my latest travels, the Baltics. All with pictures and stuff, and I zoom in and show you my recent wanderings over the island of Ruchnu. So you can see I've been literally everywhere here, and by the end
It
of
has
the
to be
year,
lined up.
yeah. So by the end of the year, you can order that as a picture book, and that's what tax authorities like, paper. So if I would ever, I mean, I have zero intention to move back to Germany. I'm celebrating my perpetual traveler lifestyle every day, and I mean, I'm a quite outgoing and extrovert person, and it's easy for me to even make friends on a remote island like Ruchnu, because people here, I mean, Estonian mentality is they are not making shallow friendships with first contact like maybe Americans do, but after a week they see that you are around, like here on the island, they start thinking like, okay, maybe this guy is staying for longer and it might be worth to have a conversation. And then things go quick. Then I had a really cool conversation with one guy here who told me the story of how his house burned down with him inside, like really scary stuff, scary pictures. Then I invited him over for a beer that evening. And next evening, he invited me for a barbecue party at the mayor's place. And from there, yeah, things changed completely. I couldn't walk through I mean, there's one tarmac road here on the island. I couldn't walk down that street without bumping into someone here, having chit chat, then someone shouting my name like, "Hey, where you going?" I'm like, "To the shop." Wait, I join you. That's how island life goes here.
How many islanders there were? Like 65, you said?
Something
65.
around that, but about half of them are said to be hiding away on intention. So they're like very introvert and antisocial. So I didn't meet any of those. But those who are visible, I think I all know them by name now.
All right. So coming back to Germany, so because you are not German tax resident, then controlled foreign company rules don't apply to you. So all the other German tax residents have to be aware of the CFC rules. Just a remark. And another tip.
Same with the US, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not in the US like I am, I live here in Seoul, South Korea, but I still have to deal with this stuff. There's this new tax called GILTI that you need to read up on. So some of what Christoph said about the tax benefits is it's complicated for US citizens.
It is. And the other tip or point what I wanted to make is that keep your accounting documents or your documents in order. So Christoph has a really good app to maintain the correctness and order within the document. So you just have to come up with a system or use an app or software that is working for you. And if you have everything in order, then it's easier to do the accounting as well. And the accountant is not asking, please send me this invoice which is missing. And it's very important. If some invoices or documents or contracts are missing, then by law we actually have to declare them. And it means they will be taxed in Estonia, and you don't want to pay fringe benefit tax, because why would you want to pay tax if you can avoid it? So my advice would be ask advice from service provider if you don't know. There's also a lot of information nowadays on the internet, but be wary, be critical, because some information, there's false information and true information. You have to seek out what applies to you, and don't ignore official notifications. If you get some emails, they are in Estonian, then just put them in Google Translate to understand what they are asking from you, and don't ignore. If you have to submit the annual reports, if you have to submit the tax declaration. If tax declarations are not submitted, the government will set a penalty on it. And why do you want to pay another 100 or 200 euros and so on, when you can avoid that? And with annual reports, what we have noticed now, if somebody needs to renew their e-residency cards, then this can be postponed by PPA, the Police and Border Guard, because they are asking, but I see that the company hasn't done the previous annual report, it's so long overdue, or I see that you have tax debts. So this can actually, the government is like checking the information from different sides now. It's not like tax offices are dealing with their stuff, registry is dealing with their stuff, but they are actually putting all the information together, and based on that they will decide whether this person can resume being a resident or not. So it's important to follow these rules and bureaucracy side as well, but always the service provider is your friend. Even if you don't want to buy their service, you can still ask, what should I do? Is it something important or not? Is it spam? Is it important notification? Because I have seen how the registry sends out the annual report notifications. It's not pretty, and you might think that it's maybe a spam email. So a bit of criticism. All right. Do you have any struggles with your businesses, especially with nowadays when we have a crisis, world crisis? Do you have some tips how to overcome the struggles? Have your businesses decreased during this past 6 months, or were you able to?
For me, it's actually quite the opposite. I mean, I would love to take credit and say, oh, I'm this, awesome businessman or whatever. But the reality of things is, I'm a little bit lucky that I'm in this position, I'm in this industry, and so everything that I'm doing is digital. Most of the companies that I'm serving are also heavily technology focused companies in some way or another, and so they are actually benefiting pretty significantly from all this move to everything online. For example, one of my customers is a streaming platform for churches, and all the churches, it's a 100 to a few thousand people get together in a building. That's probably not the best idea in the time of the coronavirus. So all these churches are having to move online somewhere, and so most of my customers have actually benefited quite a bit from this, and so have I.
Yeah, quite similar here. As I'm in the health industry, more or less, there is not really a problem going on there on the financial side of things, and especially as we are focusing on children's health insurance, where our clients are parents, and especially parents to be. So like 3/4 of our business are newborn babies. You cannot postpone a birth date. So if the baby is on the way, it needs to get the health insurance coverage after birth. And actually, as clients are usually contacting us in average like 4 months prior birth, we see a little increase now. Actually, many people have been making jokes about 9 months after lockdown.
Yeah, right.
And as far as I can observe things, this is a reality. And also with working remotely by design in our company, we didn't have any issues with lockdowns. Actually, we had a little ditch. Oh, no, we didn't have a ditch in the business, but we had quite a linear growth path. And we had a bit of a stagnation for 2-3 months on that plateau, and then fully came back. So July, August, and September have been all record months for the company. So we're doing good there.
That's good to hear, and I think that this gives hope and also new motivation for other e-residents as well who might be struggling, because what we see is that some companies are closing down, but I personally feel as well that perhaps the business planning phase has been I wouldn't say that they haven't done it, but it's perhaps a bit weak that they haven't been able to open the accounts. They haven't actually started the business activities, and that's why they are just weighing their risks and where they can cut the costs, and that's why they are closing down. And my tip would be that you have to just see different scenarios and manage your risks, and also kind of figure out what is your risk appetite and how much are you willing to pay and how much do you want to gain back.
Yeah, read The Black Swan and Anti-Fragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb if you haven't already. But yeah, to go back really quick to an earlier question about, I totally agree with what Christoph said about the can't really give general advice, but if you find something that you are passionate about, so it doesn't really feel like work to you, and you find a way to monetize that, then that's really what, to me personally, I know this is not for everyone, this is just to me personally, that's kind of the core of how I approach business, is I'm going to find something that I love to do and figure out a way to make some money off of it. And if you come at it with that approach, if you're starting with something that you love already and are passionate about, then you're a whole lot more likely to find ways to make money and to be creative with it, even in these times of, global lockdowns and all this other stuff. I wanted to jump real quick, though, to a question that I think we might have missed from Aziz a bit up. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. He said that he registered his company in March 2018, but hasn't started any operation yet, even though he signed some MOUs with some other companies, but doesn't have the actual contracts yet. Maybe Aziz, could you clarify what you mean about the tax issue and what money you're spending on the company? Obviously, you have the annual report, but I think that, Christina, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think if you have a company that, if there's no like monthly activity or something, you probably don't really need the accounting. You can just file a dormant company annual report.
Yeah, that's right. So now the question is, has the company registered for VAT in Estonia? If this is the case, then probably it needs to submit VAT declarations and so on. But that's true that if the company doesn't have the purchases and the sales invoices, then you don't need a monthly accounting service, or you don't need to do the declarations on monthly basis. You can just put the accounting together once a year for the annual report. And let's see. Yeah, it was Christoph who chatted there. I thought that perhaps Aziz amended or added information. So yeah, we would have to understand what the tax issue is that you currently have, but I would say there's a solution to every case or every issue, but sometimes the solutions are not the ones that you want to hear. So this is also what you have to know and be aware of. And actually, if the tax issue came out, then this is also one thing that e-residents and foreign entrepreneurs have to figure out is like how are the taxes set up, where and what do you have to pay. There are controlled foreign company rules, there are permanent establishment rules and so on that might change the outcome. You think that you may benefit from the Estonian very great, stable and fantastic tax system, but if there's some aspects that change that, like government establishment, then you have to be aware of that. And again, you have to analyze and decide whether this is okay for you or not. Yes, Gustav.
Yeah, but definitely, as we're seeing a growing number of so-called digital nomads or location-independent entrepreneurs, the Estonian legislation is definitely in favor of people who are truly location-independent. There are several benefits that you have if you are not a tax resident anywhere. There is like no fallback taxation or something like in Germany. If you pay a salary out from a German company to someone who is a tax resident not in Germany, then of course the tax residency rules apply of where that person is. But if that person is not a tax resident anywhere, then there is fallback. You pay the German income taxes on that as an employer before you pay out the salary. And Estonia is much more in favor for that without going too much into details. But I've just shared my email address here to Jan and others. So if you want to go more into detail about that and to hear some best practices from myself, I'm happy to share all the time. Or maybe if that's of interest for you, Christina, we can set up a separate webinar for that as well at any time.
Yeah. The separate webinars form is actually, I hope everybody can see, and we will share it later on in social media as well, and with EERICA's members. Basically, you can register for sessions which are for less people, and we will have like one-on-one FaceTime sessions where you can actually ask about specifically your business. And we will divide the sessions between the business areas plus what the topics are we going to speak about. So it will be more precise and so on. And I would also want to conclude that there's no one else who actually does your business than yourself. So you have to have the dedication. And I also agree with Ian that if you do something that you enjoy and you are having fun, then it's not a struggle, and then it's easier to get better results and better outcome out of that. But maybe you can also share, I know that EERICA is doing a lot, so maybe you give a shout out what kind of assistance you need in EERICA in order to bring the e-residency journey to the better level.
I'm glad you asked. Right now, we have a few small active local communities of e-residents that get together in person and meet. And I would love if anyone can email me if you want to start a local chapter of e-residents in your city, then please get in touch, because e-residency is not just about running a business. EERICA is not just about this online forum or something. It's about building relationships and getting to know people. These are going to be your friends, your future business partners. There's another Germany resident that Christoph knows. We actually met at the EERICA launch event last May in Thailand. He's a Germany resident named Daniel, and he actually just he's been in Korea for most of this year, actually, and he just flew back in today. And so after he's done with his little quarantine, then we're going to be going and working on a project down in the south of Korea together. And we met because we're e-residents. That was literally the only thing we had in common to start. So please, let's get these local groups together. Yeah, we're doing a business project together. Me, him, and Luke. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Me, him, and Luke. We're doing a business project together with we're doing it's an industrial automation project for a manufacturing company down in southern Korea. Yep.
Because Daniel is expert in AI and especially machine learning through visual things. So like, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he is really awesome guy. And so yeah, we've been able to hang out for most of the year together here in Korea. So please let's get some more local groups started. I'll post my email in the chat.
And
actually
also, if you happen to be a developer with some spare time, and especially if you have some experience in Drupal, we would love to see more volunteers helping our super dedicated Martin, a Danish-German e-resident who is on the board of EERICA now as well. By the way, we all met for the first time in person at Digital Nation Hackathon in Wannsee last year. Yeah, so we definitely have some things on the roadmap for the community platform of EERICA, and need some help if you can dedicate some.
Yeah, I would also add that you never know when you are going to find a really big client among EERICA's members or e-Residency, or a really good cooperation partner, or even employee or contractor. So it is a community. It's
Or
it's
service
not
provider.
just or service provider, of course. So yeah, it is a community, and it's really awesome to see like how Estonia is bringing different people in different parts of the world together and making something awesome.
And this is even more relevant in the pandemic times as well, because having this digital network as well to be able to meet each other. Like we can't just go to, well, depends on where you live, I guess. You can't just go to a conference with 2,000 people or something like we're used to doing the rest of the year. So, yeah.
All right. It seems that we don't have any. What's the best way to find out about e-Residency EERICA members with similar businesses so we can make contact and learn? Christoph will add, right? We have
okay, Ian was quicker. Okay, Ian was quicker.
Just go to members.erica.ee and
sign up with your
that's how you
card ID.
Yep.
Pay there is an annual membership fee for EERICA, which is symbolic €5, and that's it. Then you're in.
I guess we don't have any other questions. If anybody has, then we have all shared our emails, so feel free to contact us directly. You can find all of us in LinkedIn as well, and we will be sharing this recording with all the participants and registrants, and probably also in social media. So, and we hope to see many registrations for the future chat, so that we can go more deep into the topics and themes and be more help in helping you to grow, to get a successful business. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Christoph, for joining us.
Thank you.
And I guess we will end the
everyone.
session here. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.